The sound of breaking glass echoed through the grand marble dining room, but it wasn't the glass that broke. It was her heart. Evelyn Stone, CEO of a billion-dollar company, sat frozen at the head of the table, her trembling fingers gripping a half-filled glass of wine. The evening had been one of those charity dinners she hosted for show, not for sincerity. Her smile was practiced, her words hollow. Yet beneath the diamond necklace and the carefully applied makeup was a woman shattered by emptiness. 3 years ago, she had lost her husband, not to death, but betrayal. He had walked away with another woman, leaving Evelyn with a daughter and a heart too heavy to carry. Since then, she had buried herself in work, success, and silence. But tonight, everything would change, not because of a deal, not because of a speech, but because of her little girl and a waitress with the kindest eyes she had ever seen. The restaurant glowed under golden chandeliers, but Evelyn barely noticed. Her phone buzzed with endless notifications, contracts, meetings, stock updates. She replied to one message after another, trying to convince herself that control meant peace. Across the table, her 6-year-old daughter, Lila, played quietly with a spoon, her wide eyes watching her mother. The girl had her father's soft curls and her mother's guarded eyes. A waitress approached, a young black woman, her uniform slightly worn, her shoes scuffed at the edges. Her name tag read Naomi. She carried herself with quiet dignity, offering a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Good evening," Naomi said softly. "Welcome to the Pearl Lounge. Can I start you with something to drink?" Evelyn didn't look up. "Just water for my daughter. I'll have red wine. The most expensive one." Naomi nodded, writing quickly, then stepped away. Lila watched her go, a frown forming. "Mommy, why did she look sad?" Evelyn sighed. "Sweetheart, she's just tired. People like her work long hours." "People like her?" Lila echoed, tilting her head. "What does that mean?" Evelyn didn't answer. Instead, she scrolled through her phone again, hiding behind the blue glow of her screen. When Naomi returned with their drinks, Evelyn caught a faint tear on the woman's cheek as she placed the glasses down. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but exhaustion. Evelyn noticed, but chose not to care. Empathy had become a luxury she couldn't afford. Dinner arrived. Lila poked her food, watching Naomi move from table to table. The restaurant buzzed with laughter and chatter, people dressed in silk and gold, talking about yachts, vacations, and mergers. Then, something unexpected happened. Naomi tripped while serving another table. A glass shattered. The room fell silent. Every head turned, and someone laughed cruelly. Evelyn watched, unmoving. She knew she should help, but the invisible wall around her heart held her back. Then, a small voice broke through the silence. "Mommy," Lila whispered urgently. "She's crying." Before Evelyn could stop her, Lila slid out of her chair and ran toward Naomi. The little girl bent down, helping her pick up the broken glass. "It's okay," Lila said softly. "Mommy says accidents happen." Naomi looked at her, stunned. "Thank you, sweetheart." The manager rushed over, scolding Naomi harshly. "You just cost us a bottle of wine worth $300. Be careful next time, or you'll be out of a job." Lila turned to him, her eyes full of innocent fury. "That's not fair." She didn't mean to. The manager blinked, unsure how to respond. Evelyn finally stood up, not out of kindness, but embarrassment. "Lila, come back here." But her daughter shook her head. "No, Mommy. Can she sit with us? Please." The restaurant went silent again. Every eye turned to the billionaire woman and her daughter. Naomi froze, her hands still trembling. Evelyn's heart thudded. Her instinct screamed no. But something in her daughter's eyes, pure, compassionate, untainted, cracked something deep inside her. "Fine," Evelyn said quietly. "She can join us." And with that, a small act of kindness began to melt a heart that success had turned to stone. Naomi hesitated before sitting, wiping her hands nervously on her apron. The entire restaurant watched, stunned, as the billionaire and her daughter dined with a waitress. Lila smiled brightly, breaking a piece of bread and handing it to Naomi. "You can have some. Mommy says sharing makes people happy." Evelyn winced. She didn't remember saying that, not in years. As they ate, Evelyn noticed Naomi's quiet grace. Her words were soft, her laughter genuine, though tinged with sadness. Eventually, curiosity broke Evelyn's silence. "Do you have children?" she asked. Naomi nodded slowly. "A son." He's 8. Bright kid. Loves to draw. But, her voice cracked slightly. I can't afford to send him to school right now. Something in her tone pulled at Evelyn's chest. Where's his father? Gone, Naomi said simply. He left when things got hard. Evelyn felt the familiar sting of recognition. The same wound, different scars. For the first time, she looked at Naomi not as a waitress, but as a mirror. Lila listened quietly, then asked, Does your son have toys? Naomi smiled faintly. Just one. A little car I found at a thrift store. The girl gasped. I have lots. I can share. Evelyn opened her mouth to object, but stopped. Tears welled unexpectedly in her eyes. She realized how much her daughter still understood. Love without labels, kindness without calculation. Hours passed like minutes. Naomi shared small stories about night shifts, her mother's passing, her hope to one day open a small bakery. Evelyn found herself listening, really listening, for the first time in years. When the check came, Naomi stood, murmuring, Thank you for letting me sit. I should get back to work. But Evelyn stopped her. No. Stay. You've done enough. She pulled out her wallet and placed a check inside the folder. Naomi's eyes widened as she saw the number, $100,000. Why? She whispered. Evelyn's voice trembled. Because for the first time in years, someone reminded me what being human feels like. Tears fell freely, not just Naomi's, but Evelyn's too. The entire restaurant, once judgmental and cold, now watched in silence, their own hearts softened by what they had witnessed. Months later, Evelyn stood outside a small bakery. The sign above the door read Naomi's Table. Inside, laughter and the smell of freshly baked bread filled the air. Children colored on paper menus. Naomi, now radiant and free, moved gracefully behind the counter. Miss Stone, Naomi exclaimed, running to hug her. You made this possible. Evelyn shook her head, smiling softly. No, you did. Lila tugged at her mother's hand. Mommy, can we come here every weekend? Evelyn smiled down at her daughter, the child who had been her light in the darkest times. Every weekend, sweetheart. As they sat and ate, Evelyn looked around, really looked. The laughter, the warmth, the joy. For years, she had tried to buy happiness, when all it took was giving it away. Naomi's son came running up to Lila, offering her a cupcake. My mom says kindness makes the world softer, he said. Lila giggled. It does. My mommy learned that too. Evelyn laughed through tears. It was true. The armor she had worn, the coldness, the pride, had finally cracked open, and inside was a woman reborn. Later, as they left, Evelyn whispered to Naomi, You taught me something money never could. Naomi smiled. What's that? That healing, Evelyn said softly, doesn't come from having everything. It comes from giving something that matters. And for the first time in years, the billionaire walked away, not richer in wealth, but in heart. Sparkling heart moral of the story. True healing begins when we open our hearts to others. It isn't wealth, status, or power that defines our worth. It's kindness, empathy, and the courage to care. One act of compassion can bridge worlds, melt pride, and remind us that every soul, rich or poor, carries the same longing to be seen, valued, and loved.